Was a book that left me flabbergasted. So we're pantsing it. Work gives a new meaning to the objectification of women. Hi, hello, welcome. My name is Kharissa, you can call me Kari, and welcome to another video. For today's video, I thought we could do a little something kind of spicy, a little bit different. And what I want to do is start a new series here on my channel where every single month we review a book that I think would be perfect for a specific zodiac sign to read. I think this can be something a little bit fun, a little bit different, and I'm really excited to see what you guys think about it. These are all books that I've never read before, and I'm picking them based off of how I feel about the cover and the synopsis and how I think that fits into each sign's aesthetic, if that makes sense. Before we say anything, I do want to address my current filming situation. This is not my usual bookshelf. I am sitting in front of a closed door, and this is because I am currently still on the countryside. Like I mentioned in my Studio Ghibli video, I am visiting my grandmother and taking care of her, and I have not been able to travel back, so we're just making do with what we have. So if the lighting's a bit weird, if you randomly just hear a chicken or a rooster in the background or dogs running, this is why. This is gonna be very chaotic. I don't even really know what I look like right now, so we're running on -0 at this point. So with that in mind, this month we are starting with Aquariuses, since Aquarius season is starting on January 19th. Sorry to my Capricorns, y'all are gonna have to wait till the end of the year. I did not think about this while it was Capricorn season, so you're gonna have to take a little step back, but I promise we're gonna get to you in time. So for all of my beautiful astrology babes that are interested in this kind of content, hi, welcome, glad to have you here. Hope you stay, hope you hit subscribe and enjoy this content. And for those of y'all who are not that into astrology and you're like, what the fuck, don't worry, we're still reviewing books here, so even if you're not here for the astrology part of the content, definitely stay, because these books are going to be worth talking about, I promise you, especially the book we're talking about today. Before we get into the book, let's talk about our Aquarius babes. Aquariuses are born between January 19th and February 18th, give or take, depending on the year, and they are known for being assertive, intellectual, original, unique kind of people who don't really like to go with the flow. And for y'all, because of this, I have chosen Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. This was a book that I saw floating around a lot of websites that detailed like what to read according to your zodiac sign, and it seemed to appear on a lot of people's lists. So when I was looking down the list, this is the one that definitely caught my eye, mainly because I think it embodies a lot of Aquarius traits. The book itself is about a girl named Philomena who attends Innovations Academy, a special academy that focuses on instructing young girls how to behave. As she attends school with her fellow classmates, she starts to notice that some things are a little bit off, and together with her group of friends, she goes along to figure out what dark secrets Innovation Academy is keeping from them. What stuck out to me about this book that made me go, oh, Aquarius vibes, was one, of course, that very rebellious spirit of going against the establishment. I think that is a very Aquarius thing to do. But also, I could see a lot of Aquarius traits in Philomena as a woman who is very independent, headstrong, and unwilling to follow the life that has been mapped out for her. Now, before we go into the spoiler-filled review of the book, I do want to focus on a little bit of a spoiler-free section, just to give y'all my overall thoughts and my final rating for the book. Girls with Sharp Sticks was a book that left me flabbergasted, like there's no other word for it. From start to finish, I didn't really know what I was getting into until I was in the book, and I was like, oh, this is not going the direction I thought it was at all. Of course, like the core basis of the plot was there, and that I did expect, but all the twists and turns it takes along the way were completely unexpected. I've heard this book described as Westworld meets Handmaid's Tale, and I 100% agree. The only difference, of course, is that this being a YA novel, it does not deal with the subjects as heavily as, say, a Handmaid's Tale would. So for those of you who are wondering, is this book incredibly graphic? My answer is no, you can be self-assured there. However, I will say I was scricked out by a lot of points in the book, and I will say heavy trigger warning for people who have been or still remain in purity culture, or people who had to be deprogrammed from purity culture, since that is one of the main themes of the book, and it is prevalent through its entirety. Honestly, if I had not been prepared to deal with these topics, I myself would have probably probably been incredibly uncomfortable by the book as somebody who had to go through that process myself. So that is very important for me to reiterate. Please, if this is a trauma that you suffer with, handle this book with a bit of caution. Suzanne Young beautifully masters the contrast between being stuck in this culture and this mindset and then the thoughts afterwards. You really feel for the girls throughout the entirety of the book, and I think that's what really sold me on it. There are so many books that deal with this topic, but none have I seen deal with it the way this book does, and how intimately it deals with the subject the way this book does. However, I will say there were a couple things stylistically about the book that did leave something to be desired. It is very much cliched YA first-person narrative writing. However, I was able to look past it. All in all, I give Girls with Sharp Sticks a 4.0 out of 5-star rating. The book really did keep me hooked from beginning to end, and I really did enjoy the connection that you form with these girls and the connection that they form with each other. And the twists and turns honestly did have me on my feet while I was reading it. I couldn't put it down. However, there are problems stylistically and in the writing itself that I cannot ignore. Some of them possibly errors in editing that made me go back to make sure that I had read the previous passage correctly. And just a couple of things timing-wise that had me a bit confused. I do say this is a very endurable read. Not one of my necessary you have to read this book kind of reads, but if you do pick it up, I think you are going to enjoy it yourself. That being said, let's get into the meat of the book. We're gonna go into the spoilers. The spoiler-filled section. I will say a lot of the appeal of the book does come from its twists and turns. So if you don't want that to be spoiled, if you don't want that part of the book to be ruined for you, please go pick it up. All my Aquarius babes out there that are like, this sounds interesting, maybe I'll pick it up. Let me know, sound out in the comments, is this the kind of book that you would read? Am I spot on? Am I wrong? For those of you who are staying, please get a snack, come back, let's kiki, and let's talk about Girls with Sharp Sticks. So first of all, let's just discuss the fact that I lost my tabs. So I wasn't able to mark anything in this book, and I am the kind of person who refuses to write in my books itself. So we're pantsing it. We're going on the fly. We're figuring out what we feel about this book as we go. I had never heard about this book before. I started looking on lists, and I saw it and I was like, this is the kind of weird shit I'd be into. And so I picked it up and then I sat down, and I will say at the beginning, that beginning, guys, wasn't too sure of it. You know, we're sitting there in the flower garden, I was like, and then like the plot picks up like chapter 1 and you're like, what? And then suddenly it just kind of plateaus for a bit. I will say though, I don't mind the plateau. I have seen people's reviews where they're like, ugh, it's so boring. That middle part I think might be the best part of the book. Like, seeing Philomena handle the world she's in really gives you perspective on how deep these girls are in this bullshit. The plot of this book is absolutely bonkers, guys. Like, we start out at the academy and there's Philomena and her girls and her friendships, and like we immediately from the first second, like, you meet these men that are controlling it, and you hear about all the rules and the fact that they can't have sugar and they need to eat like very low like diets because they can't be like spoiled, and you hear about like all the specifications of how they should look, how they weigh them, how they measure them, and you're immediately just like, and then you find out that they're taking vitamins at night, and you're like, that's suspicious. And then Philomena doesn't take them one night because she gets drunk and she like throws up, and then suddenly she's like, everything is shifting and changing in this world, I am confused. And then you find out that they've been drugged into subservience, which first of all just made me go, oh, I was expecting it, but this is still horrifying to hear. Specifically because Philomena starts talking about how one of the pills specifically erases their memories. And then as the book goes along, like, as the girls' attempts to escape get more drastic and drastic, so does the way that men in their lives treat them and the way they are physically abusive to them, until by the end, and this is like the big plot twist, so skip over, I will have a little picture of a dog here, and when it's gone, if you don't want to hear the spoiler, move on, because this is literally like the big spoiler of the book. You find out that they have been created in a lab, that they are not human, they are part human, part android, and that these men see them as objects, which like truly gives a new meaning to the objectification of women. Let me just say that. Was kind of expecting it, but not expecting it at the same time. But even though you're expecting it, even though like you know the twist is coming, it still rattles you when the girls see the body of their dead friend just on a slab in front of them. It's insane. If you haven't read the book, please go read it, because it does hit a strong chord within you when you get to that part. Starting off, let's talk about Philomena. I really did enjoy Philomena as a main character. Some people might call her bland. I just want to call her traumatized, because that is literally what she spends the entire book dealing with. Of course she seems bland at the beginning. She is subservient. She has been taught to be subservient to these men. She is literally given vitamins that make her subservient to the men in her life, and that is not her fault. But through that blandness, we do see a lot of her personality. She is fiercely loyal, fiercely protective. She is incredibly intelligent. She is kind and brave and stubborn, and when she finally finds her voice, it is so worthwhile to see. Like, the first time she ever stands up for herself, even though you know it's gonna put her in immense danger, you can't help but be rooting for her and be ecstatic the way she is, because she's finally gotten some semblance of control in her life. And you know, that's truly what the book is about. The book is about control, specifically the control that men want to have over women. And of course, like, we can get into conversation if not all men, blah, 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 but that's not what we're here for. I think that if we're here and we're having intelligent conversation, we understand the nuances that are projected here, and I think it's not controversial for me to say not all men but enough men. And the book really deals with the idea of men enjoying female subjugation and female fear as a way to make themselves feel powerful. And it's something that Philomena touches on in the book. I cannot find the quote for the life of me, but she mentions that when they start rebelling, the men no longer see them as beautiful, no longer treat them well, because they are suddenly scared and intimidated by the fact that these women see them with hateful eyes. The only purpose these women have is to adore them, and if they're not adoring them, then they are worthless. The rigid rules that the girls have to adhere to in the academy, I feel like some people might say, oh, that's like too much. There's been a lot of talk about like, oh, like this is so exaggerated. But the first thing I think about is like, no, like this is the way many women are raised, and the way that many of us are treated, and it's something that is deeply ingrained into our society. And I think the main thing that Girls with Sharp Sticks does is that it emphasizes it and maybe exaggerates it slightly so that you are more aware of the things that it says. For example, the girls are taught that there's a specific color eyeshadow that looks good on them, there's a specific hair color that looks good on them, there's a specific lipstick color that looks good on them, specific kind of clothing that looks good on them. And I think any AFAB person can tell you that we definitely dealt with that growing up. Looking at like Tiger Beat magazine or Cosmopolitan, all of these articles on like how to dress best for your body type. What kind of lipstick should you wear based on your undertones? There is an entire market based around the regulations of the female body and the way that femininity is presented. The only thing that Girls with Sharp Sticks does is emphasize it. Then on top of that, that's the whole thing of the book of the girls being taught that they need to be obedient, subservient, quiet, demure. Anyone who was raised with conservative parents can also attest to this. The whole idea of women should be seen and not heard. Just because some of these ideas are from a bygone era does not mean that they have fully gone away. The other thing I want to mention briefly is Winston Week. I do not trust that man. I find him so sus, and the way that he's like connected with like Lennon Rose and like Leandra, I'm like, I don't know. I don't trust him, and like we haven't been given any reason to believe that any of the investors are good people. And even itself, Leandra's not a good person. She's a deeply flawed, traumatized person, but she is not a good person. It's kind of strange to me, like the note they leave you on, especially knowing that he helped Lennon Rose leave, especially with the fact that he told Lennon Rose that she'd be able to contact the girls and then he doesn't. Sus. Suspicious. Don't trust it. Don't trust him. Will I read the next book and find out? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I forgot to mention this in my spoiler-free part, oopie doopie, but this is the first book in a trilogy. And I've heard like mixed reviews of the last two parts, so I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it yet. So I might be picking up the second book, I might not be picking up the second book. That's still kind of up in the air. Those were all of my thoughts on Girls with Sharp Sticks by Susan Young. I know this video is kind of short. I don't go really like deep into a lot of things in the book, but I also think a lot of this book it's very difficult to put into words. And even in my spoiler-filled part of the review, I really don't want to spoil a lot of the things. A lot of it just needs to be experienced in person. With that all said, I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I'm sorry that it is kind of chaotic and a bit short, but I promise we're gonna get back to our regularly scheduled content by Saturday. So let me know, what did you think of the book? Have you read it? Have you not? Are you gonna pick it up after hearing this review? Sound off in the comments. If you like my content and you want to see more of it, please hit subscribe so that you are aware of when I upload things and you can be ready for my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!